thinking about stuff to talk about in my next video after I did that one. And as I said in the latest video, I talked about Dungeons and Dragons and my experience with it. And then I realized I had Dungeons and Dragons, the board game, the basic game. So I thought, why not look at that today? This game isn't really Dungeons and Dragons, because Dungeons and Dragons, you only actually need like a pen, paper, and yeah, like very basic stuff. And Dungeons and Dragons often have the books. They are more important. This game is more, I think, what I can remember. I played it, or I got it when I was like a child. So it's a while since I got this game and played it. And that's why we're gonna look at it. But I remember this game as like more combat focused and not as role playing. You don't role play in this basic game. In Dungeons and Dragons or DnD, like the real game, you role play a lot, and the combat of course is there, but it isn't as important. I'm sure there are Dungeons and Dragon campaigns and stories people make that doesn't have combat, because I'm sure there are people that enjoy the role-playing aspect the most. But I don't know, actually, it's just a thought. But let's open to look at what kind of stuff there is. Okay, so first we have parts of a map. I think these are for you to like build where your characters can go. And it's squares, so you know where your characters, like a character stands in one square. And I think there exists bigger characters that take up like more squares than one. So the first one is looking like we are in a dungeon, actually. Very fitting for the name of Dungeons and Dragons. There's some broken swords, a rug, but also rubble, stones. So it seems like it's some sort of dungeon. On the backside always looks like a summoning circle or some sort of magic circle with some magic stuff. Glass orb or something. Yeah. It was a long time since I watched or looked into this box. It's kinda new for me. I don't remember anything, at least. This one seems to have like an altar in the middle. It's going up. It looks like it's elevated. It's some stairs here. And it's a lot of skeletons and bones around it. And some blood. So I think it's supposed to be yeah, like a sacrificial platform or something. And here we have this looks like a well or something like that. Yeah, and a lot of spider net. or something like that. It looks like a spider web. And here we have... Oh, something fell out. We have like a stone coffins. And some like stone statues of soldiers. Oh. And here looks like we have symbols. Maybe it's a puzzle. And this might be like a portal or just a door to out of the dungeon or into the dungeon. I don't know. And also some looks like statues of some sort of animal or beast. I don't know. It has multiple tails. And here we have this almost looks like acid, or at least like water that is dirty. I don't know, it might be dirty or it might be acid. And here I think it's supposed to be mushrooms. And just maybe it's a table. I don't know. And here we just have like some rubble, a couple of stone pillars. So that is the maps of this game. Now we can look at these. Here we have like character books for the different characters you can play. First we have Cleric, and here we have a picture of how the character looks like, the little model or figurine you have to this book. And here we have the fighter character book, and he has a big sword. And here we're gonna find the different figurines to these books. The rogue carrying also a big bow. And the last one is a wizard holding a wand, it looks like. I'm gonna see here. Sorry. And a dungeon master book. I think this book is like how the dungeon master plays, because all these maps, they have an encounter one, for example, enter the dungeon, and here is written how the dungeon master is like setting up the enemies, and here it's like two door symbols, and I suppose that's to be like a door when they enter the dungeon, the characters. And there's a treasure, and here is a text with Goblin Warrior and Goblin Archer. is like a very, very basic introduction, maybe you can call it, or something like that, to Dungeons and Dragons. And this game is completely combat based. I think there are some like storytelling. For example, you have the dungeon master is supposed to read like these small boxes of texts to the adventure players. But there is like minimal role play and mostly combat, and that's, I think, so you maybe can get familiar with the combat in Dungeons and Dragons, or I guess for people that just want to experience what Dungeons and Dragons might be, at least the combat. But I think the combat, when you play D&D, the role-playing game, is a little bit different than this, because often I'm not sure it's so clear. Like the combat in D&D, it's almost like combat in like the games, the computer games, Final Fantasy, that when you encounter an enemy, you like load into like a special fighting scene or something like that. I would say D&D is more like that, because when you encounter enemy, you start, it's just very, it shifts to like a combat focused playing, I don't know, something like that. I hope you understand. That might be a bad example, but this game is so combat focused that they are more free with how the combat works. So yeah, the encounter one, and how to roleplay the goblins. So you can roleplay the goblin. An encounter 2, the Harpy's area. And here we have like different like treasures and a monster harpy, doors, more treasure, goblin usher, orc mauler, goblin warrior, a treasure, and adventures. Yeah, so this book is filled with the monsters, like combat stats, what happens in the room, and information about like the different stuff that is in the room, like the locked chest, the trapped chest, how you're supposed to role play the goblins. I think that's kind of interesting how to do that. So yeah, information for the dungeon master, how he's supposed to play. Here we have the advanced rulebook, and on the front of the book it says don't read this book, so I'm not gonna look at it. No, I'm kidding. But it says start with the character books for players and the Dungeon Master book for the Dungeon Master. The Dungeon Master should review this book after running Encounter 4 in the Dungeon Master book. So I don't know what kind of... I'm not sure we used this book when we played I don't know. This is like more advanced stuff that or how you combat in Dungeons and Dragons. I am really not that good at that kind of stuff, so I can't explain it, unfortunately, and I'm not gonna read out stuff that doesn't make sense for me or for you guys. Or maybe you are better at Dungeons and Dragons than me. That might be the case, actually. So, at least we know there's an advanced rulebook. Okay. And another book. The miniature game. Battle rules, I guess this is for... No, actually, this is for another game. So I won't look at this. Actually, this is for like it's almost the exact same thing. It's also like something you buy and you get some characters or figurines that you can just start playing, and it's also focused on combat. So I don't know, this shouldn't supposed to be in this box, it's supposed to be with the other stuff. So I'm gonna put this away actually. Okay, let's go looking at what kind of other stuff there is. I think we should look at this, the dice that is very like iconic for Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, I'm sorry about that sound. These dice are very iconic for Dungeons and Dragons. You're always supposed to have these exact dice, like how, for example, this is a 10-sided dice. It goes up to 10. And I know they are often referred to as D10 when they write out, or the dungeon master says like, oh, if you're gonna do that, roll a D10. They all have their own purpose in the DnD role-playing game. So they are all very important for the game. So you have a D10, a D4 that goes up to 4, a D8, yeah, the most common dice we know, D6, and a D12, I think that, yeah. And this, for me at least, I understand that this is the dice you use the most when you play Dungeons and Dragons. You roll the D20 the most in this game. This is actually not an uncommon dice for Magic players as well. Because not that you roll dice in that game, but in Magic, when you play against someone, your life starts at 20. So many people use this kind of dice to track their life. So you like have a D20 besides you, and when you take damage, oh no, I took 3 damage. You go to 17. They often roll it down to 17 and have it sitting there beside them. just to remember and to show their opponent as well what life total they have. But yeah, that's not what I'm supposed to talk about, but just a fun thing that both these games actually use that. Okay, let's start to look, let's start to look at more fun stuff. I hope I can remember what kind of characters they are. Yeah, we can start with the heroes or like the adventures. Here we have the first one. This is the fighter. He had a big sword. So I'm actually just gonna move these so I can make some room for the figurines. So we can lay him here. And the next character is the rogue with the big bow. Those that are very serious about Dungeons and Dragons often create or buy like an own figurine for their character. So when they play a campaign, they have like a figurine to represent their character. Because sometimes if the dungeon master is like very serious as well, they have like these maps that I showed you in the beginning of the video. So yeah, to help the players kinda, what can you say, understand where the characters are in certain scenarios. So some people are very serious about Dungeons and Dragons and have a lot of stuff to it, so yeah, they can have sometimes maps like that to help players. And here we have the next character, the wizard. I realize these are not the greatest, painted the greatest, and they were, if I painted them, I wouldn't understand why they looked like this, because this is, I think, the best I could do, but they were painted when you bought the game, so I think they maybe could have made a little better job, I guess. Doesn't matter though. The next character we have is the cleric. Looks like a dwarf actually, with a hammer and a big shield. We put him there. And that was all the characters or adventures. I remember these monsters at least because I remember clearly when I played the first scenario. And this is the goblin fighter and the goblin archer. So it looks like the fighter has like a little mace and a shield, and the archer have a crossbow and a nice little top hat. It looks like those Santa hats, a red top hat. So he's kind of fancy. So you can actually have the monsters there. The next monster, oh man, I think he has been kinda pushed down. He's supposed to stand up, but no, Now it just looks like he's about to fall over. It's a skeleton. And he has a big sword actually. And a nice shield. Looks like a sun shield. Praise the sun. As if you're a Dark Souls player, you know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, that's one of the other monsters. Here, I think we have an orc actually. The orc mauler. And yeah, he's big. He's bigger than the fighter. And he also have a mace and a shield. And looks quite scary. They actually made a very scary face to him. Maybe not very scary, but he's supposed to look mean. Here we have, I think this is supposed to be a harpy. Her hair is standing up, it looks like, and her weapon actually looks like a bone. She has big wings. So yeah, keep them. Oh, she can't stand up by herself. I have kind of like a soft surface here, so it might be hard for some of them to stand up. Here we have, I think this is supposed to be a gargoyle. If I remember correctly. He also got that scary face showing the teeth and red eyes. Yeah, no weapons on him, but when you're stone you can just punch someone and I guess knock them out or something. And the second last is, I think this is supposed to be a minotaur. Those, like from the ancient Greek story, the minotaur and the mace. And he has a big sword. And they also have a mean face. I think they are kind of funny actually, the mean faces. With the open mouth, like there, he's supposed to scare you. We put him over there. And the latest, or the last monster, and I think the end boss of this dungeon is the blue dragon. Also the red eyes and mean face. And a bigger, like, base. I think this base maybe takes up 4 squares. So yeah, I think this is the end boss in the dungeon. And I think we are at the end of this video soon, because the stuff that is left in the box is just a very basic read this first, and it's like a setup, how to set up the first encounter, I think, and what books you're supposed to read after that. So I think when I read this, I think this is supposed to be a minotaur. So I think when I read this, I think this is supposed to be a minotaur. So I think when I read this, I think this is supposed to be a minotaur. So I think when I read this, I think this is supposed to be a minotaur. So I think when I read this, I think this is supposed to be a minotaur. So I think when I read this, I think this is supposed to be a minotaur. So I think when I read this, I think this is supposed to be a minotaur. So I think when I read this, I think this is supposed to be a minotaur. So I think when I read this, I think this is supposed to be a minotaur. So I think when I read this, I think this is supposed to be a minotaur. So I think when I read this, I think this is supposed to be a minotaur. So I think when I read this, I think this is supposed to be a minotaur. So I think when I read this, I think this is supposed to be a minotaur. So I think when I read this, I think this is supposed to be a minotaur. So I think when I read this, I think this is supposed to be a minotaur. So I think when I read this, I think this is supposed to be a minotaur. this game is supposed to like get players very fast into the Dungeons and Dragons fighting system. I think this game is maybe, I don't know if they have the same fighting system anymore. This game is kind of old, and the Dungeons and Dragons role-playing game has evolved a lot, so the combat might not be the same as it was when this game came out. But I think this game is supposed to help people get into the combat fast in Dungeons and Dragons and learn how you do that part of the game at least. Because I mean, the role-playing games, that's very much up to you. It might be hard for a new dungeon master to do that smoothly, but you don't often start as a dungeon master. You start as an adventurer. So I think, because this is like really how you're just supposed to open a box and set up, and then you start read the Dungeon Master book or your character book. So this game really wants you to just jump into it and start playing. So it's a great start, I guess. And the last thing in the box is just a lot of tokens. Like a scroll. And it says on the backside, bless cleric spell. So I guess, I don't know, do the doors have something? Yeah, lock it. So we have scrolls, we have potions, healing potion, we have armor, like an armor symbol, a ring, and it says 2 bonus armor to armor class, yeah. And a chest, that's a strap. So yeah, it's a lot of those tokens, I guess, or stuff, things for the adventure to interact with or acquire, I guess. That was everything in the box, plus 1 book that wasn't supposed to be there. I don't even know actually if I own the stuff that is supposed to be paired with that book. I might actually have given that to someone else and not given them that book. So either they didn't play it or never played it because they need a book to play it, or they just, use the figurines and the map to something else. Kinda hard to play without a book. I might still have it, so I shouldn't make myself look bad, but I have no clue where I have it in that case. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video where I was looking through the Dungeon and Dragon basic game, as it's called. I just thought it was kind of fun to look at when after I talked about my experience with Dungeons and Dragons in my latest video, the coloring video. I thought, why not look at the basic game at least? And this is like a good start, as I said before, but just to get a feel for what Dungeons and Dragons is with the fantasy elements and maybe like items you get and monsters you can face. So, as a combat starter, I think it's great. I speak so confidently about Dungeons and Dragons when I only played it like twice, so please take what I say with a grain of salt. Maybe I might not be correct with everything, but I think what's great with Dungeons and Dragons is that you can easily get into it even if you're a beginner. So I think I can speak on some things. Yeah, as I said before, I hope you enjoyed the video and that you maybe learned something, or I don't know, enjoyed the mean faces of the monsters as much as I did. I hope you got relaxed and we see each other next time.